Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And question time. Go ahead and unmute yourself or type in. Go ahead and fire away.
Go ahead, Marilyn, then Lolly. Hi, Greg.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I was curious, what's the difference between the three Lotus oils that you have available, the white, blue, and pink?
Well, they're all just variations of the Lotus. So they all have very similar properties. The blue probably hits the mm, circadian rhythms the greatest. The excuse me, the pink actually activates the seed in the heart, the physical seed, where the blue and the white both stimulate the mental permanent seed up in the head. Um, Other than that, I mean, they're all pretty heady. They all activate the upper centers. Um, they all kind of push you um, deeper into parasympathetic activity. You know, any of the precious oils usually kind of send you into a deeper parasympathetic activity. And so after that, it just becomes about scent. Usually the one that is most sought after for the scent is the blue lotus because it smells like a perfume. Like it, I mean, it's just naturally real perfumey. The white and the pink are a little bit like heavier scent. You know, they're an absolute. I mean, they're all an absolute, but the Blue Lotus is the one that's real super perfumey smelling. Like there's perfumes that are based just on that scent. You know, they're synthetic, but they still try to target that particular scent. So, yeah.
Thank you. I did have another question.
Sure, sure.
As far as like releasing like somatic energy that's stuck in the body, what class or what oil or technique would you recommend
In
using?
in the org programming. So it depends on what you're trying to release. Like, are you just trying to target like trauma and things like that, or are you just trying to work the somatic mechanisms?
I feel like I have sadness stuck inside of me and I can't
Mhm.
tell where it's coming from. It's just like a feeling inside.
Okay. So you know, because the thing is like with that, like you said, it could be somatic, it could be that your like physiology is generating it, especially if it's not really tied to something. Um, you know, when I say tied to something like a past event or something. And so the body can, like, if there's pain, for example, can generate like hurt feelings or sadness or things like that. And so, have you tried working with either like a some form of rose or Melissa?
I've been taking Melissa internally and that's been I feel like making me in a better mood, but I still feel like
The
sometimes like
sadness is there, yeah.
yeah,
Do you happen to have any sort of rose?
I do. I got the rose complex.
Oh yeah, God, you got fancy rose.
Yeah.
Um, Um, let's see here for you. So you know, it's kind of interesting. So normally I would say, you know, you could do a little like flesh out with doing like the main man, back heart, and crown. I don't know that that's going to do it for you. But what I would do is the organs of blood purification. So the lungs, the liver, the gallbladder, the kidneys, and the spleen. And do that daily. You know, do that repetition, and then like within a week, you know, so maybe next Tuesday Let me know how that worked for you. You know, that it worked or didn't work or moderately worked. But I think if you work that for a little bit, that would actually be impactful. You
Is
know, the thing is like sometimes it can be in the unconscious, and sometimes because of things from the past, we've generated like attracting a kind of energy from the environment. And even though life has changed, that momentum of what's being attracted hasn't caught up to it yet. I think that's actually what's happening to you. Like it's sadness, but it's about something like a while back, and circumstances maybe have changed, but what the energy that's being attracted hasn't caught up to where you're at right now.
would I do that while I use the rose oil?
You
Like
would
a s-
do it with rose oil. Yeah, yeah,
okay.
sorry. Yeah, do it
Thank
with rose oil. So rose oil on those organs of blood purification, like if you can, like 20 inhalations per organ.
you.
And
Okay.
then do that every day for like a week, and then let me know how you do it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that should nail it. Especially when you have like do you ever get a little funny thing in your throat? Like
Definitely.
yeah.
Like blockage or like I can't.
Yeah, like there's always like a little, like there's something you got to clear in your throat, or there's like a little heaviness, or there's a name for it in Chinese medicine. I can never remember what it is, but it's that's associated with like excessive amounts of sadness or grief. And so
Okay.
it will actually get stuck up in the throat a little bit. They call it like plum chi or plum.
Oh, is that the one?
Yeah, it's like I can't remember. Yeah. But anyway, um still would treat that with Melissa or Rose. I mean, I think I even made a blend for it one time, but Rose or Melissa works just fine. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's see how that treats
Thank you.
you. Yeah. Even try putting like a drop like on the thumb webs, like here and here. You can even do that during the day,
Okay.
because that will activate the heart, but also will flush things out of the solar plexus.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Lolly, then Priya.
Hey, Lolly.
Hi, how are you?
Hey.
Okay, let's see. I have like a list of stuff. So let's start with so we did the study group was yesterday? Yes, yesterday. I'm
Mhm,
not asking about the race. So the Vagal Tone Body
mhm,
Tonic.
mhm,
This is like, oh my God. So I put that on my neck and I was like,
mhm,
oh, this is kind of nice. And I felt like things releasing, but later on I worked with a gua sha on that area because I do that almost daily to kind of
mhm.
release a little bit from, and I was like, oh, this is feeling completely different because the muscles were completely like the muscles for the TMJ, the muscles
Right.
on the side of
It
the face.
should decrease muscular tension in the body, but especially on the area that you put it.
Right. So
Yeah.
that was, I didn't realize how strong it works, but you would
Yeah.
still put it only, and you would put it only around the neck, or would you put it on other areas as well?
You can put it on any of the areas that's compromised. I mean, I'd be careful about like putting it like on the face, but
No,
you
yeah.
could like rub it into the jaw a little bit. Um, all those oils should be relatively okay for the face. The only thing like in the tincture, it has
Yeah, I remember you mentioned.
sassafras. Like it
Yeah,
has
yeah,
a thing that's not an oil, it's just a tincture.
yeah.
And I think it would be okay on the face. I probably wouldn't go too crazy with it on the
No, it freaks me
yeah.
out a little bit, but yeah, but the feeling is like huge release,
Yeah.
which is amazing. So would you do it like what? Maybe like 2-3 times a day even, or
Oh, you could. I mean, I usually only end up doing it once a day or something.
okay.
Like if I'm doing okay, I might do it at night before I go to bed just to help me sleep. But like if I'm having a like a bad back day or something like that, I'll do it right off the bat just to like if you take the tension down in any sort of pain syndrome, the body tension will go down, and so you'll actually decrease pain somewhat by improving the vagal tone and decreasing the body tension. Most pains will reduce somewhat. It's not necessarily like a pain reliever, but then whatever other treatment you're doing on the area becomes much more effective. You know, a lot of times
Right.
we put things on as like, yeah, it worked, and then it didn't. I mean, really, translation is I had really poor vagal tone and I tried something and it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what happened, you know. And,
So you
and
would use, yeah, so you would use that, and then you would use
yeah,
anything else for,
yeah. Then you could you know, it would augment anything else, pain related, spasm related, even like trying to recover from like colds and flus and things like that. You know, the more you go into repair mode, the more that you're going to be able to heal there. So you could use it in a lot of different scenarios. But you know, I like the idea of doing it like a lot of times when I'm putting it on at night, I'm doing it more for maintenance. And
Mhm.
you know, we even have one of these little like stimulator things for the vagus nerve that you put on like on your neck, and it does a little electrical stem thing on it for, I don't know, 15-20 minutes or
Mhm.
whatever. I do that and the vagal tone thing at night sometimes, just so I want to be sure I get good sleep and the body recovers. And I notice over a period of time of doing that, things that would make my body like stressed out or chaotic, you know, like lack of sleep or travel, or, you know, the things that just really displace you a bit, or um, it's like, yeah, it's a thing, but like I shake it off really quickly, and it doesn't, like, I would say functional, but like my body would feel a little out of whack for a few days. And now, like, I don't feel like even out of whack with travel. When for travel for me, that's huge, because like even when I was young, that used to throw my body out of whack.
Oh,
You
okay.
know, I wouldn't sleep very good. I could only fly 2 hours. You know, it wasn't like I flew
Mhm.
in an even different time zone, and I just like start sleeping really bad, and I just you know.
Yeah. Okay. So basically some maintenance and not necessarily
Yeah.
treating something specific.
I
Okay.
mean,
Okay.
Vegas tone is also good for, you know, even as a spiritual practitioner, it's tied to the movement of the energy from the heart to the crown. And so even for just your spiritual practice, doing the vagal tone work deepens the conversion of heart energy to the crown. Will you have me a tissue? My nose is feeling itchy. Can you back me up for just a second?
So and then what we did yesterday using the readers in addition to that,
Oh
that
yeah, that
just
would make it even more
intensifies.
potent. Yeah, yeah,
Right, because
yeah,
and I think that yesterday, actually, after we did the readers, I think my mind, that was really relaxing doing the
yeah,
combination of the two
yeah,
of them. So that's something
yeah.
I can utilize basically anytime.
Right.
Just those two together.
Just those two together. Yeah.
Okay.
And in the
Okay.
pinch, like if you didn't, if you didn't have like the rhythms, lotuses by themselves work. Like Marilyn was asking about the different lotuses, they all kind of hit variations of the rhythms, and helichrysum by itself hits the rhythms a little bit as well, like helichrysum and pepo, and There's a one other.
Mugwort.
Yeah, I think it is mugwort, actually, now that you mention it. It is mugwort. Yeah, good call. And so the blend is maximum potential. But like if you're in a pinch and you're like, I need something, you could grab one of those. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that what is actually in the blend?
It's pretty much those oils. It's
Those? Okay.
yeah, it's
Okay.
Lotus. Let me look it up. I can tell you here real quick. Yeah, at first I was going to do the thing that we did last night with the rhythms, with individual oils and work all 4 rhythms, but I found that the blend actually did it better. Yeah, it's pink lotus, African bluegrass, impapo, helichrysum, and mugwort.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
So
Thank you.
bluegrass would have an impact as well. It's just they all aren't as strong as the thing together. And if you were trying to jump to single oil that was the strongest, one of the lotuses would be the one to use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then oh, let's go for that. So last week, I mean, we talk a lot about different mantras. Last week you did this thing with the Moses technique and one of the holy names of God. So I'm kind of wondering how important is the pronunciation of the names, because how I say it and how you say it.
Right.
different.
More about the toning. Like the pronunciation is like saying the words, but it's the gateway to the tone. And so like once you start to tone the words, you kind of start to just kind of follow the energy. So the pronunciation will actually change quite substantially. It's almost like the pronunciation can start to get you somewhere, but the tone is the energy coming through the word. And the way I was taught was to work the tone more than the word itself. Yeah, like I was, when I was taught like certain things, like we'd learn the words and then the instruction was now forget the words and just make the sounds, the tones.
Okay.
And at first I was like, ugh, really? We're going to go backwards now? And it's actually the opposite. It makes it much more potent. It makes it much, much stronger.
Okay, because I mean, for me, the words are obviously super easy because that's but I pronounce it very differently, but it's working on the tone of each word. Okay. Okay. And then also when you talk about the Hebrew letters and their combinations, and you mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, the Yud Hey, Vav Hey, and then the other holy name, and you talked about the 5 elements that are. Would that be? I should probably know these things, but it's but would that be in any combinations that these letter would be in, or only in
No,
that
you want to say them in
specific?
that. You want to say them in that order. Yeah.
Yeah, for that I want to say them in that order. But when you have those letters showing up in other words, would they give the same energy in a way?
It would depend a little bit. Like if you were saying it casually or if you were invoking it, would give it a different like feel.
Yeah.
Like so, like one of the things that I do, like as my own personal Dorje practice, is all how there's those aspects. I'll just take one of the letters and meditate on just one letter at a time. Like so, that's to work that particular aspect with the elements very specifically to that. but like you said, it can be in other combinations. And so it's a thing in several different languages and different cultures. Like I remember traveling with medicine men. We were in Hawaii, and we were talking with the what do you call them, kahunas in Hawaii, like kahunas. Yeah, so the medicine men from Hawaii. And we were having a conversation, and like their term for light, like there's 7 different meanings for that word depending on how you use it. And then even for like the Native Americans, like I was traveling with a medicine man from the Lakota tradition. And so like even the idea of buffalo would have something that's very literal up to like very like spiritual, like a very deep spiritual meaning, and then several things in between. And so the same would go for like how you're using that word. Like it would depend on how you're using it and the intention behind it versus for like what it would invoke. And so in a way, yes, but in a way it would depend, if that makes sense. Like it's kind of
Yes,
yes and
but then when you're working the letters on their own, you still get that specific energy of the elements.
right.
I guess that's what I was. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And if it was like mixed in with, I mean, other letters or words that that had some spiritual component to it, I would say yes. But if it was in some casual conversation, you went da 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 da, I would say no.
Makes sense.
Or very, very little.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then another quick question. So on the weekend, there was some kind of a question about Spikenard and then Spikenard Extra. Somebody asked about that, and I'm wondering if what is Spikenard Extra? Is it different than
Extra is a type of antispasmodic. Spikenard, valerian, vetiver, and myrrh are all good for what you would call contractures. And a contracture is a kind of like tension or spasm that has no neurological reason for being there. Like when you get like a normal cramp, lack of blood or lack of nerve flow to the area or overexcited nerve, like there's a neurological reason why you're getting that cramp. Where a contracture, there's no neurological reason. So it's usually like body misalignments, postural misalignments, can just be tension, could even be a byproduct of like emotional or mental tension. It could be tension from other people, and the body tightens up, but it's again not for neurological reasons. But the most common reason being misalignments or injuries. And so Spikenard Extra is a combination of using spikenard and then some of the citrus oils that are very antispasmodic to kind of have a combination of an effect on things that are like in spasm that have neurological reasons, and then also non-neurological like reasons. And so it's just a variation of some antispasmodics, because different kinds of spasms that like take different kinds of treatment, just like there's different kinds of pain. But I try not to bog you guys down with all these like weird little details of like physiology and stuff, but it's kind of like an in-between like a regular spasm and a contracture. It does a little bit of both, and it's usually for I mean, it's inhaling, inhaling it, it's very relaxing, it's very soothing and kind of uplifting all at the same time. But if you look at it from the point of view of what it does to the body tissue is it relaxes some of that the contracture aspect of some body tension, and then it also reduces some spasms, like just good old-fashioned spasms.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, I appreciate the information. So I like to understand
Yeah.
things. So thank you.
I tend to like, I mean, you can use it anywhere, but I like it on the neck and shoulders more than anywhere else in the body. Like I think that's a good area for Spikenard extra to target, but you could use it anywhere. You could use it on your feet, you could use it on your back, but the times where I tend to pull it out is usually neck and shoulder, like up in this area, and you know,
Mhm.
just taking the
Yeah.
tension out of the neck and shoulder. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you.
Salt baths are amazing.
Yeah, salt bath is a good way to do it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because I had you doing Spikenard extra baths for a while. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. And then another question. So last week I asked about ET scalp. So we talked about that, and he said that you can do well spikenard and what was it? Chamomile or lavender or even
For what
sage.
is it for?
Itchy scalp.
Itchy scalp.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually for me. And I tried that, and I tried a couple of other things, fancy, shampoos targeted to whatever. I don't know why it's still kind of
Still
an
itchy.
issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've had that many years ago, and then it's fine. So
Let me look something up here.
then I don't know if I should mention the other thing, because maybe there's a connection.
Yeah, that's
Also
here.
have some,
Yeah.
so the other thing is I have some reaction on my fingers, which again I've had in the past, even up until like a few months ago, and then it was fine. And I get it mostly on like left side, ring finger, pinky, pinky on the other side. And it's like I can't even, it's like somewhere between little blisters and eczema, but not really. And I don't think it's like contamination, because I'm washing my hands constantly with like, the scrub.
Hmm.
And I don't, but since it's these two things all of a sudden coming up, I'm like, kind of, there's a, and the fingers already tried helichrysum, German chamomile.
You know what? Let's have you try some apple cider vinegar, and it like take it in internal, like I mean, what would be a good dosage? Like, what's the dosage like with your tonic?
I mean, a tablespoon with the tonic.
Yeah, could you do like a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar?
I can probably do that. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Just a basic. I know there's
Yeah,
a
I
tonic.
mean, you can get little gel caps too. You can get the little gel caps of it if you don't like
No, liquid is probably easier for me.
Okay.
Um,
So
and
yeah, just
what
put it on a spoon and just like once a day, just take it internal.
and what is that? What is it supposed to do?
It will hopefully change the nature of the scalp over, even within about a week or two, should start to change it. But like in really bad itching situations, one of the ways of treating it is vinegar internally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try that, and then still do the other things.
I mean, if it's not bringing you relief, I wouldn't worry about it. You know, I mean, you could try a little bit later, but it's probably going to be more effective just to do the vinegar internally.
Okay. And then yeah, and what's the difference between like the regular vinegar that I get and whatever? 'Cause there's one on the
I'm going to
website.
turn
right?
this over to the expert.
I mean, an apple cider vinegar, obviously, to me would be the best choice, but for this, I mean, I like raw apple cider vinegars
Yeah.
because you get a little more for the gut stuff,
Yeah.
but you could be okay doing just a
Just with
regular
regular vinegar. Yeah.
regular apple cider. I'd still
Yeah.
go apple cider, but
Yeah.
it's less harsh internally.
The
when you-
raw is.
Well, raw is probably the least harsh. And I would probably still chase it with water or something,
Yeah.
even after a tablespoon.
Yeah.
But just a vinegar, like a apple cider vinegar, even if it's not raw, is going to be easier on the body than other vinegars.
Right.
So
Did you hear all that?
Yeah, and I think I have raw. I think I should have some at home, even with all
Yeah.
the small pieces. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the fingers. Is there anything that's like it's the fingers? It's like it's itchy and it's red and it kind of
I would be curious to see what happens with the vinegar.
if it does.
Like
Okay.
I think we're going to hit it all with the vinegar.
Okay, so I'll try that for a
Yeah.
couple of weeks.
Like
Okay.
I mean, I would say even by the weekend, let's see how your
Okay.
areas are doing. But
Okay.
I think by this time next week.
Okay. Perfect. And then one last question. So on the weekend, you talked to I'm gonna butcher the name, Donita. You right?
Oh yeah.
So you talked to her about cystis and the Ming Meng, and you told her to do something with that before going to bed, right? The brain and the Ming
Oh
Meng.
yeah, sure.
And I was like, you know what? This sounds really interesting. I should try that. I did.
Yeah.
That was great. So I
Yeah,
never
yeah.
fell asleep faster.
Yeah.
Super deep sleep. So many dreams, so much going on.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I woke up and I was like, a lot of times I dream a lot and I could feel it was busy, but I'm exhausted when I wake up.
Mm-mm.
But when I did that for a couple of nights. I woke up and I was like, oh wow, and I'm like so ready for the day and things and
Yeah.
so it was really interesting. And
Yeah.
I have to admit, I lasted a little bit longer yesterday, but not more than a little bit. Like I
Well,
fell
good for
asleep
you.
super fast. Am I on the right track here? Like what's
Yeah. Oh, that's a great practice. I mean, it's the thing with the Ming Men and what you're doing is you're manually making the Ming Men always has somewhat of a balancing effect on basically intellect and intuition, or the left side and right side of the brain. But what happens sometimes is we get stuck in the intellect, with the day and whatever. And so it's a nice practice because it like kind of harmonizes the two sides of the brain. And I find that my mind is kind of quieter when I do that practice. And at first I started just doing it, and maybe we'll practice it together as a group, so we're not just talking a little bit about it, but we'll do a little bit of a practice. But at first I would do like the back, the middle, the front of the brain, but starting to do that thing where you go, okay, where do I feel the denseness or the heaviness in the brain? As we practice like that brain awareness, like in some of the classes, you're doing that, but your awareness is also on the Ming Men at the same time. And when you do that, it really it changes, like it improves how your mind perceives, and also how it like processes information. And so, I mean, there's times where I'm sitting and looking at situations and I can feel like how different my brain is, and I'm having to sit with it just going, huh, okay, this is going to be very different than what normally happens. Or like, you would just have like almost like, how like sometimes you just get an automated response, or you just go through a series of like automated kind of things that you would say over and over. It's almost like you blow through all of that and you're looking at something almost for the first time, but it's something you could have been looking at for every day for the last 20 years. But it's almost like you see it with new eyes, and you don't really lose what you had. It's just you stop it's like at some point you get I mean, this is a byproduct of intellect, is you look at something and you kind of go, okay, this is what it's about, and you stick it on the shelf. And then like when that subject comes in, you go, yeah, I kind of know all this. I mean, you don't do it literally, but your brain kind of does it, and you just go, yeah, I already got that all figured out. So then you kind of phone it in a little bit in that area. You know what I mean? And by going through and doing this, it allows for information to come in that is not there. And I find it very helpful with clairvoyance, because that is one of the things that when you're trying to work intuition and clairvoyance is piercing through those little, like kind of almost like self-imposed veils, where your mind is already going, oh yeah, this situation, I've already thought about it. We've already made an opinion. It's already on the shelf. We don't have to think about that anymore. That's what intellect does. Intuition is like, well, I don't know. Let's pull it off the shelf and look at it and dust it off a little bit and pull off those cobwebs and look at this. Like maybe it's different now. Or intellect's no, it's totally the same. It's totally how it used to be. Doing that practice, Sistis by itself does that, but doing it with the Ming Men and brain awareness, man, it fires through all that stuff very quickly. So that's when you start to go into the realm of, in mystical practices, they'll talk about glamours, which are like kind of like emotional patterns, and then illusion, which is like mental patterns, and then what's the name of the other one? Maya, which is like the illusions of the associated with the earth, like the form. And you're really kind of blowing through some of that stuff, because you think about it, those are like the repetitive things that you see and behave and think, and you just don't pierce that veil from time to time. It becomes easier to do it. Doesn't take as much mental energy to do it. Like it, but as practitioners, that's the slippery slope. If you can pierce those veils, you'll have a kind of inner expansion that happens from time to time. And it doesn't mean that you work that all the time, but when you're like, okay, time to step up my game, like that's what you do. Yeah.
And you mentioned to do it before bed, but would you do it like during the day as well? It's more beneficial.
You could, but you could. But the thing that I would say is, whenever I've done that really intensely, I have done it in the day, but it's usually days that I don't have like a lot of demands on me, because I'm sleepy's not the right word, but like I'm feeling pretty chill. You know what I mean? And like you stick something to me and super important, I'll be like, it's all good. We'll get it done this week. Like, I won't be super motivated to jump in and just tackle the task.
Yeah, but so you would do it like at night, but doesn't have to be like right before bed if you still want to be awake.
I would just say don't go, oh, I'm gonna do this and then I'm gonna balance my checkbook, or I'm gonna do that and then I'm gonna go clean out the closet. Like, because that second thing is not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, yourself. Yeah.
And then go ahead, Priya, then Ralph.
Hey, Miss Priya.
Hello, how are you?
Hey, good. How about you?
Good. Couple of things. I've had a really bad headache last few
Oh,
days. It
okay.
has
What
been
part of your head?
terrible. The whole head, and I think I know what triggered it. After many years, I'm transitioning back to oil paintings. And so I know there's a lot of other options in the market, but I chose to go to the one that I was familiar with from many years ago, which was Terps. So turpentine oil,
Oh, gotcha.
um,
Yeah, it's
it
only that. You're right. Yeah.
and it's not like I was using a huge lot, but a very little bit, but the headache was so bad. Last few days it was just terrible, and everybody I'm having any interaction with, they knew that, I'm really agitated, and it was reflecting in my communication and everything. But last night I had a frankincense and myrrh bath. It
Mhm.
has, I don't know if it was it, but it is reduced, but it's still there.
So, do you happen to have St. John's wort?
No. But I can order one because I think the Doge
Well,
is
let's
gonna
get you
come
out of
in.
your headache like today. Like last
Yeah, okay.
yeah, let me um blood purifier. Yeah. Can we pull up a list of like what she has? Yeah. Helichrysum. Do you have helichrysum?
Yes.
So what I'd like you to do is do helichrysum, take a couple, like maybe 1 to 2 drops, maybe twice a day, and then do inhalation on just like we were talking about before, the organs of blood purification.
Yeah.
So lungs, liver, gallbladder, kidneys, and spleen. And I'd even put a couple of drops like on the wrist. Like on the wrist, or
Yeah.
maybe even better yet, like a drop on the fingers, and then rub it into your temples. And the idea is just a gentle detoxification. It won't
Yeah.
cause any weird detox effects, but it's probably just it's a sensitivity, so it's not quite an allergy, but it's in the vein of allergies, sensitivities like that. And when you get an exposure like that, you just gotta clean up the blood a little bit. And the thing that I like about this, be it with St. John's wort or with helichrysum, is that it also stimulates proper liver function. And so you're wanting to reduce the exposure, but or in the effects of the exposure, but by stimulating the function of the liver, it will make you less predisposed for it to happen again. Like, the goal would be to help you recover, but also upon next exposure that you don't quite have the same headache. Eventually no headache, but we want to stimulate it so that when you're exposed to whatever it is, unless it's a harmful chemical or something, but here it's like it's turpentine, it's probably more your body is sensitive than anything. And so
Yeah.
if you want to augment that, run down to the health food store and get some St. John's wort capsules or a tincture or something and take a little bit of that. I was even thinking like maybe echinacea, but echinacea is a good blood purifier, but it doesn't quite target what you have going on. the St. John's wort would be a better choice. You know, because the reason why St. John's wort works so well for all the different things that it does is it's an incredible blood purifier. And so that's just, you just need to clean the blood up a little bit.
I do have the capsules. I'm just having a
Yeah,
look now,
just
but they
take a couple
are.
capsules and with the helichrysum, and you should be golden. Yeah.
So it says St. John's wort 3600. I don't know. It says it's a top extract, 600 milligrams derived from dry herb, 3.6 grams. Yep, that's what it means.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
is this good?
Perfect.
One?
Yeah.
Just one.
One, maybe twice a day. Yeah.
One twice a day.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
I might even do two twice a day, but you could
Yeah.
start with one. Yeah.
So I'll do that. I'll do the helichrysum. Now I stopped. This is professional range. Like I did not get just, from a hardware store, the terps. This was like from a proper art store.
Mhm.
I'm thinking, so what I did was I put it outside. I put it in the courtyard, the whole jar, emptied it and put it in the courtyard. But even just the oils, and these are top quality oils, the colors.
Mhm.
Even just the oils out of the tube are making me really like.
Yeah, I think you're just having a sensitivity issue more than, because if that was a thing, nobody would be using the paints. You know what I mean? So like we just got to get your body to a place, and this can happen. Like I had this happen many years ago where like I had gotten exposed to some substances, and my body just got weirdly super sensitive to the point where I started having allergic reactions to like anything and everything around me, like just anything. And I treated it for like I think it was a really severe sensitivity, but I treated it for 45 days, never had the problem since. And I mean, one thing, like they put me on some medicine. I took the medicine and I had a sensitivity response to that, to the point where I had a seizure. And, went through and cleaned everything up. Later took that same medicine, nothing, nothing. And so the body can get into these states where it can become really hypersensitive or really super allergic, and then you treat it and it comes down, and those same sensitivities completely go away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't need to worry about stopping
I would
using these.
no, no. I mean, my thing with that is, because people will even talk about that with food allergies, is like, even if you start doing the avoidance thing, which is what people do a lot of times with allergies, I mean, it's fine, but over a period of time, what happens, the list keeps growing, it keeps getting bigger and bigger, where really you want to eradicate why you're having the sensitivity, and then you can not choose the food or the substance or the smell or whatever, but get your body to a place where it's like non-reactive. And so
Yeah.
here, for whatever reason, the body got a hypersensitivity to those things, and it happens, but treat it, and we'll make it go away. And then if you choose different oils to work with and paint with, fine, but you're doing it because it's your choice, not because your body is having some weird reaction. Yeah.
No, I like the idea. I'd rather be strong. And the
Right.
thing is, these are the best oils I can find in the market. So there's
Right.
nothing better than this I can go for. So, and I'm enjoying the process so much that I'm thinking, why did I not go back to oils before? So I don't want to, give up on it and go back to acrylics. I don't want to do that, but rather become stronger. So yeah, I'll give this a go. So with the capsules, is it empty stomach or after? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Like if you are sensitive, like when you take things, you do it with a little bit of food. I really pay no attention to it. I just do it whenever. Yeah.
Second, aloes from our last healing session. I've been doing aloes in the brain. So with the rest of the practice. Now, I was just so relaxed doing the aloes in the brains that without realizing, I got into a pattern. And I went brain, solar plexus, and sex chakra, and
Yeah, that's fine.
reverse. And I kept doing brain, solar plexus, sex, solar plexus, brain, like just did the same cycle. But I wanted to check with, because I just, nobody asked me to do it, and I just got into
No,
it. So I
that's
wanted
great.
to.
I mean, you're working the three brains. Yeah. And so yeah, that's a great thing to do. Yeah.
With aloes, it's all right to do.
Oh yeah, it's super juicy. Like it's a good
Okay,
one.
good.
Yeah.
That's good. So hyssop on the wrist. I've got hyssop on the wrist usually almost every day. Now there's a few different varieties of hyssop online. Which one? I've got the normal one at the moment. Previously, I used the Hyssop Supreme, which is
All of
wow.
them
It
together.
smells, yeah, it smells really nice. But I wanted to check because now going from Hyssop Supreme to Hyssop, it just feels like, yeah, I've just,
Yeah, you went fancy. Yeah,
yeah.
so they're all just variations. The one that's not quite the same is Hyssop decumbens, and Hyssop decumbens is doesn't have quite the levels of the God, is it Thuyon? I think it's Thuyon in it. And so the Hyssop decumbens is a little bit more antispasmodic, and you can use it like in much bigger dosages. But other than that, they're all variations of just the same thing. The Bulgarian, the Corsican, and Spanish, and I don't think we have English or French on the sites anymore. I can't access them like I used
I
to.
think we took off Bulgarian actually too. Yeah.
Do we? Yeah. So, but they're all good. Solomon's Hyssop is a blend. So that one I wouldn't, that's a formula that King Solomon called, his hyssop. And so that's a combination of 9 plants. But all the hyssops by themselves, very therapeutic. The Hyssop Supreme has them all in it together. And anytime it's a Supreme, it's usually about 3 times the potency, sometimes even 4 or 5 times. But just because you're taking the plant from different areas, different regions, and different environments, and so you're getting a broader spectrum of what that potential is for that plant. And so that was the idea of the Supremes, was to take plants from that grew in different areas and put them together so that, if it's high altitude, low altitude, dry, wet, moist, whatever, you pull them all together and you get this like broader spectrum of what it is. And so
Yeah, beautiful. No worries. Lastly, taking ginger oil internally, what would be some of the benefits of it?
Reduction of inflammation, digestive health, helping, like it would be a digestive tonic, but also like a very stress-plagued digestive tract, any sort of arthritic conditions, and it would help improve like things like brain function and things like that. Yeah.
The reason why I asked, my digestive fire, just because of the medicines that I was on
Sure.
previously. And there was a lot of extra support I needed to take for healthy digestion and stuff like that. So now that I'm off it, I do take some herbal Ayurvedic medicine, which is called Trifla.
Oh yeah.
Combination of 3 different herbs. But
Right.
if I was to take ginger or something in oil form, would that be beneficial for
Yeah, sure.
digest? Yeah.
Ginger, like I said, it's very toning to the digestive tract. So, it treats specific things, but one of the things it also is just very fortifying and toning to the whole digestive system. So, yeah.
No worries, I'll place an order for that one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
And then just really quick logistics on the St. John's wort. I thought it might be worth asking, because it is a blood purifier. If people are on medications, we often tell people to not do the St. John's wort oil.
Yeah, I mean, that is the thing with St. John's wort, like Samantha brings up a good point, is that it is a strong blood purifier. And so if you're using the oil and you're just inhaling, that should be okay. But if you take a few drops of the oil internally, like a couple of times a day, it does diminish the effects of medications that you might be on, just because it basically purifies them out of your system. And so your body processes through them much faster, and they might not have quite the duration in you as possible. And so with taking the herbal remedies, just like a couple of capsules a couple of times a day probably shouldn't be a thing. But if you were to do bigger dosages, it would diminish the effect of any medications that you're on. But on the flip side, that's why we use it, is to clean things up and diminish the effects of any sort of exposures and things like that. And so if you need to flush things out of your system, that's one of the ways to go through and do that.
Great, thank you. I just wanted
Yeah,
to be put in there. And then go ahead, Ralph, then Kathy.
Hey, Ralph.
Hey, Greg. First off, head progress. Claire today made a comment that she said my head is looking very much better.
Oh,
So,
nice.
Little outside confirmation of some progress there.
Good. That's got to be so nice, because I mean, that's been going on for like what, a year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. If I want to
And
develop,
so if I remember right, we're doing myrrh and you're using a little bit of castor oil, like maybe every other day or something.
correct.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. I love
If I want to develop all 7 rays in my self or my aura,
Mhm.
whichever it might be,
Mhm.
do I need to go through a cleansing process first?
No, just start working those 7 rays.
Okay, so just take the 7 ray oils and just
Mhm.
inhale them and follow them through
Yeah.
basically once a day,
Yeah, I would pick 1 ray a day. Like,
one ray per
yeah,
day.
like, start on Sunday, do ray 1, Tuesday, ray 2, whatever version of that, and go through and work them. I do it that way, and I get on little kicks where I'm like, I'm gonna work ray, 3 for a week, and
Mhm.
I don't usually make it a week, but it's what I started out to, I do it really intensely for 2 or 3 days, and
Yeah,
then
okay.
And so I would keep working that. And then I like the idea of like when you're looking at that back recipe booklet, to like
Mhm.
work it when you're working any of those things, even if you're not trying to establish change, but say you have a project or something, and you're looking at like communication with somebody, or you have a back and forth with somebody, and maybe there's a little bit of cords or negativity with somebody. It's like, okay, here's the opportunity to work that aspect. Like I like it when there's like a reason for it to be done, because it feels like it makes it like it anchors it more into the body and the mind,
Okay.
and so I like to do it both ways. And so yeah.
Okay, good. Great. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, good.
And then go ahead, Kathy, then Megan.
Hey, Kat.
I don't know if this is even something that you can help with, but
Yeah, let's
on
give it a shot.
on Sunday, I'm meeting with Anne and the little sanctuary, the group of people, and we're going to be talking about near-death experiences.
Okay.
And these are probably at least 5 people with firsthand experience.
Mhm.
It's an old group of people,
Sure.
but it can be young too. And I was wondering about oils or scents that might allow them to express it without being overwhelmed. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
sure. Yeah. Do you happen to have tuberose?
Mm, I don't think so.
Okay. How about mugwort?
Oh,
Mugwort or
yes,
artemisia? Yeah.
of
Okay.
course.
Let's have you use that. Yeah.
Okay. Mhm.
I mean, like the thing I was going to say after mugwort would be helichrysum, and the reason that I would say helichrysum, and maybe you can just kind of keep this in the back of your head, is that if there's a little bit of like trauma, like if they start recalling it and they kind of feel a little traumatized by it,
Yes.
the helichrysum will help them to release the trauma and move past it. But
Okay.
you know, I will say this: my experience when people are sharing near-death experiences is because they got so close that it's not traumatic the way things are when stuff just goes bad. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's
Right.
it's got a very, very different vibe to it. And
Mhm.
you know, because like being that close to passing, things really kind of start to fall away.
Mhm.
And um I would say probably the mugwort's going to be the one just to get energy flowing, you know,
Mhm.
moving and the creative expression. It's
Mhm.
probably going to be more of a thing than the helichrysum. But the helichrysum I'd have maybe just as a backup in case something gets stirred.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. I don't think, knowing these people, that there's going to be a negative stirring, but you know how the body kind of has a mind of
Sure.
its
Oh
own.
yeah. And sometimes the mind to process it after the fact
Yes.
can do some weird things with it. But
Mhm.
usually if people got really close, I find they have like a clarity that
Mhm.
they bring to the
I've just been
conversation.
seeing a lot of folks lately dissociating, uh,
Yeah.
really together people dealing with traumas
Yeah.
cognitively
Yeah.
and emotionally, but then it's like something takes hold.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I just wanted a little safety net.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say there is greater levels of dissociation in society.
Mhm. Thank you.
You're yourself.
And then go ahead, Megan, and then we'll do chat questions.
Hey, Miss Megan.
Hi, Greg.
Hey.
I've been working with this client a few months. She has a lot of health conditions, but right now what's popping up really often is the migraines. So she's had a daily chronic headache for years, and then she'll normally get one migraine a month. And the past couple weeks, she's gotten like 2 or 3 a week. 2 or 3 weeks in a row, she's had a weekly one. So I tackled that the last couple sessions, and maybe tomorrow I'll talk to her and it'll be better, but it wasn't improving at all. So
Okay.
over the months I've worked on her front back solar plexus a ton. This is a pH question, by the way. And her Mingmen a lot. And then before that, we were working on her IBS. So I was working on the digestive tract a lot, like doing really deep cleaning there. And maybe that stirred up some things, but yeah, the headaches are just worse lately.
Do we like where in her head are the headaches?
I
Like
did
at the
ask for that
top
once.
or
I'm
on the
trying to remember
side?
now.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I'm sorry. Yeah, I asked her
That's
a while
okay.
ago. Forgot. And then she also has fibromyalgia. So those are the main things: fibromyalgia, migraine, IBS.
Okay. So The minor chakras of the arms and legs and the jaws are all super overactivated. So that needs to be addressed. That's it's like causing like a kind of agitation or hypersensitivity that makes the body a lot more reactive.
Okay.
So I would say that, and then she also has like very poor vagal tone. Like her vagus nerve is very depleted. And so the way to go through and treat that is you know, we would use oils to tone the vagus nerve, but with energy you do it with violet.
Okay.
And so you'll put a bunch of violet in the front and back solar.
Okay.
Like a bunch. And then activate or energize the heart and crown also with violet.
Okay.
But the one place you want to go extra hard is the lungs, but not just the lungs, go to the bronchioles.
Okay.
Like her bronchioles are they're constricted, but I'd say they're stress plagued. Like even if you were to do something to manually open them, they're so stressed out that they'll just like kind of snap back. You know what I mean? And so even if you get like them to dilate somewhat, like it will take a while because the vagal tone is so diminished. And so anytime you're dealing with chronic fatigue, you're dealing with really you're dealing with lymphatic stagnation. But so you have like lymphatic stagnation, and that stagnation like overstimulates the sensory nerve. So it makes the sensory nerve start firing much more rapidly, like up to 10, 20 times what's normal. So then that overloads the brain. So that's what causes the chronic fatigue syndrome. And so for there to be proper lymphatic movement, proper lymphatic function, she would have to have proper vagal tone, right? Because if you look at like fight, flight, and rest and repair, it's like fight, flight, your body flips a bunch of switches, and rest and repair, your body flips a bunch of switches. And so things like detoxification, lymphatic movement, you know, movement of hormones, digestive function, all of that is out the window when you're in fight flight because you're trying to prepare for running or fighting. You know, you're preparing for activity.
Yeah.
Those other things happen when you're in rest and repair mode. So if the body's not able to go into rest and repair mode, those functions happen much more minimally than normal. So anytime you have like she has digestive issues, which is, you know, rest and repair. She's having lymphatic issues, rest and repair. You know, she has a list of things that are not functioning well because her body's not able to go into rest and repair. Even the headaches and the migraines probably are more because of poor vagal tone than they are of anything else, because poor vagal tone also increases muscular tension, body tension, tension in the gut. You know, it just increases all that tension. So then you're going to be more prone to headaches, more prone to migraines, more prone to trigger point activity. And so intensely work the lungs, you know, the bronchioles. So lungs, throat minor, back throat, but specific to the bronchioles.
So I clean the bronchioles and energize with like
energize more than clean, like way more.
Yeah, violet or even some light whitish
Yeah,
red.
non-violent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Like, and then, you know, any fancy oil will usually move the body into. Are you seeing her in person?
no.
Yeah, then just do what you're gonna do.
On the minor chakras of the arms and legs, would I cleanse with, what would I cleanse with? What would I energize with?
Just inhibit
Right.
them. Yeah. No need to
Okay.
save them very much. Yeah, just inhibit them.
Just light whitish blue, dark blue.
Like medium.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me look at my notes really quick. So, okay. And then, I think you mentioned to someone else with the vagus nerve to clean the sides of the neck. Would that be helpful
Mhm.
here too?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, sure. Yeah, that's always helpful.
Okay. Do you think, doing this for like 4 sessions would start to make a difference? Like, what do you think I should expect?
I would say that you should start to see something in the first session, but it might take 4 or 5 for it to really anchor in. Like if her body's been that way for a while, it's going to be like tipping over a Coke machine. You know, you're gonna have to rock it back and forth for a while before it, you know, flips on its side.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a little bit of that, especially if she's already got chronic fatigue. There's like the rhythms are off in the body as well, and so there's naturally going to be a back and forth for a little while. But
Okay.
you know, like you look for diminished intensity, shorter duration. You know, you look for improvement. Just because symptoms arise again doesn't necessarily mean that you're backsliding. But if the intensity is diminishing, it's not happening as often, it goes away quicker, it responds to treatment much easier. All of those are movements in the right direction.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the lungs, would you also just focus with violet or would you?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
One,
have you ever spent time looking at the like X-ray of the lungs?
no.
Do that before you like. Well, I'm gonna post a picture. Hold on.
I have like an illustrated, like anatomy chart that's, illustrated, so, but not an X-ray.
He's gonna post something in here real quick. Let's maybe do a little experiment with this.
Yeah, sounds good. And just as far as experiments go, maybe we'll do a little experiment with the one you and Molly were talking about too, if we have time. Sure. Oh, it's big for you guys. Maybe let me just make sure.
Look at that picture a while, and then you can see like the bronchioles inside the lungs.
Yeah.
Really focus on that.
Okay.
Like I would say even have that picture up while you're working and like look at it as you're working. Like
Okay.
let's do a little experiment. Like take the picture down for a second. And let's have everybody pull out an oil that's good for a respiratory function. Like hyssop or spruce or frankincense or myrtle, German chamomile, one of the blends, one of the respiratory blends, pulmonary stress support, respiratory support, bronchioles. So the picture is down, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so now Notice, take a long, slow, deep breath without the oils and just check in with lung function. So you kind of notice where your lungs are. Now just take some long, slow, deep breaths. Keep your awareness on your lungs or just inhale, whichever one you're going to do. Just keep taking long, slow, deep breaths. You're still taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Okay, take the bottle away and then take a big giant breath and measure out your lungs now. How do they feel? The inhalation, the exhalation, the expansion. You notice you feel a little calmer, you feel a little better. Right? How do you feel? Did
Yeah.
it helped a little?
Yeah.
Which one did you use?
Just do Hyssop.
Nice. Okay, so now we're going to post the picture. Okay, so now stare at the picture as you take long, slow, deep breaths. You're staring at the picture. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths.
Oils.
Yeah, you're using the oil, by the way. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're using the oils. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. You're staring at the picture of the healthy lungs. Looking at the healthy lungs, you're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. And then just pause, take the oil away, check in with your breath. Take a nice big deep breath. See how your lungs and your chest are doing. Did you notice a difference?
Just like been like relaxed, but even my breath, I actually feel like I'm able to take in more breath and it's not as tight.
Mm. Yeah. So the idea is that, we have in our physiology the tendency to use as an example imagery from the environment, right? And so by looking at something that's like a positive image like this, like here, it gives your mind like something to kind of follow, like, you know, because otherwise your brain just kind of makes something up. And so even when you're putting your awareness like on the bronchioles, you know, it becomes easier to do it when you see the image. So it becomes easier to direct the energy, but also your mind has like a positive example to follow. And so it makes it easier to break out of those like dysfunctional patterns within the body that are causing, you know, poor performance in a particular system or organ or something. So you can do a version of this, and you know, when you're doing healing, you can look at it, but it, you know, it helps you focus more on what's accurate rather than what's just imagination in the mind. So it makes the energy much more directed, be it from the plant or from healing. So, yeah.
Okay, that's super interesting. Thank you.
Yeah,
Um,
it's actually in the back of the advanced book.
Yeah, yeah.
oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm not original.
Yeah, no, I just have some like
Yeah.
very simple,
Yeah,
you know, like illustrations, like I said,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I completely forgot the bronchioles had so many branches like that,
yeah,
you know, from
yeah.
my childhood education.
Right.
That's helpful. Thank
Yeah.
you. I was gonna ask about myself really quick.
Mhm.
I'm trying, I know you have your digestive class coming up and I'm taking that, but I
Mhm.
can't take it live, but I've been just trying to do energy healing on that area and my liver, and there's
What's
always
going on? What's going on?
nothing. I just want better skin.
Oh, better skin. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, and also I can feel this blockage. I feel it, like I'm aware of it all the time, but I can't get rid of it. And I thought maybe you could tell me. And I've tried to clean the diaphragm, like the transverse colon. It's right in the middle, right there, but it just nothing seems to move it.
Okay, so there's like a little bit of tension there.
It's not tense anymore, but it used to be. Like I
Okay.
think a lot of anxiety was there, something of that nature,
Right.
and that like the tension's gone, but maybe it's not even an important blockage, but
So when it's hot outside, do you sweat?
yeah.
Do you sweat a lot or not very much or?
I think it's average, maybe on the more side, a tiny bit. I don't know.
And so when you're saying issues with the skin, like the skin is dry, it's not supple, it's not like what's
No,
happening?
I just want, well, like last week or 2 weeks ago, we were talking about like doing a little cleaning on the liver because I kind of have just like little brown splotchy, you
Oh,
know,
that's right. The
and
little
on my
splotchy
face and
things.
stuff.
Right, right.
It's just
Okay.
a vanity thing.
No, I get it.
Um, but
And
I did
you
like,
know, that's also a reflection like you do want to improve liver function because those things are happening. You know what I mean? So it's you could say, yeah, it's vanity, but it's also a reflection of like, hey, you know, got to work the liver a little bit more. And so,
yeah, it just got me thinking to, I used to drink so much in my 20s that I'm like, you know, let's just have a liver cleanse. Why not? And I bought
yeah,
some
I
supplements
mean,
and stuff
it
like
could be
that.
that, but it also could be foods. It could be, you know, things in the environment. There's all kinds of reasons why that those things could be there. So I think we talked about, if I remember right, you using lemon over a period of time,
Yeah.
and then jump starting things with peppermint. And
Yeah.
so very good. Helichrysum also very good. Rosemary verbena very good. Greenland moss very, very good. Goldenrod very good. Carrot seed is another one that's a bit of a sleeper for that.
Oh, I have that one.
Yeah, like so I mean lemon would be slow but tried and true. Like you know, I would go through and do that. I would at times like maybe do little bursts of like the peppermint and even a little bit of helichrysum from time to time. You know, and the helichrysum will reduce cholesterol, for example, but part of what it does is it helps the blood be more fluid and so more penetrating, and so it has like a little bit of a thinning effect on just like bodily fluids and things, like even like hormones and glands. And so it just makes everything flow easier and like more penetrate, it penetrates better.
Yeah. Would you take
And
it internally
so
for that?
that's the thing with the liver, is the liver can get really stagnant and stuck. And even St. John's wort has a pretty strong cleansing effect. Back in the herbal days, we would mix the kind of aloes. It's not the kind of aloes that we use with the essential oils, but it's a kind of aloes. We'd mix aloes and St. John's wort, and in certain people, you'd see these like weird, like little, like you could see like these little like black like dots of things come out in the urine. Like they'd save a urine sample and have it tested, and when they'd send it off, they would say that there was like just toxic material, and a couple of times people even said, oh, the sample got exposed to something because there was some weird toxic material in there. And that combination just, it flushes things out of the liver. And you don't always have to mix it with aloes, but St. John's wort has a very strong purifying effect on the liver. All the organs, but especially the liver. Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So even if it's inhaled, even if you're just taking a few capsules, from the health food store, like or a tincture or something like that, like any of that would work.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then go ahead, Lolly, then Chris.
Hey, Lolly.
Hi. So I'm gonna have a follow-up question on everything you just talked about. Let's start with the skin, because I think she's the one you talked to about the dark spots, and you mentioned that you have some kind of a recipe for dark spots that you can do topically, but you were still looking for that.
Yeah, I got sidetracked and I haven't tried to find it, but I'll try to go find it. Yeah.
Okay.
I have a bunch of different recipe books, so I have to just plow through the recipe books and see where it's at.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, I thought I'll double check. Okay. And then we'll go back now to the healing question. So if we're talking about the vagus nerve issue, and so cleaning the neck and all of that, but now when you mentioned that, you talked about a lot of other things to clean with violet. Like, for example, the girl I'm working on now, so she just had like a major surgery and she's dealing with hormone issues and adrenal issues and a bunch of other stuff that's going on. That's the girl that's bipolar, and there's a lot.
How old is she?
42-ish. Yeah. So I would think something like that the vagus nerve is probably
do use the vagal tone for that, like do a lot of vagal tone work. And then the thing where, because I heard you say bipolar as well.
Yeah.
So in that blend rhythms, that actually can be quite helpful for that.
Right. And then when I'm cleaning, because like she also has some asthma going on, and so I worked on the lungs. The picture was super helpful, by the way, because I've been working with that, and it's and for me it's like I'm painting the small bronchioles, so it's kind of cool. But when I work on them and I like the cleansing the blood or purifying the blood, I work with different colors. So would it be more beneficial to work with violet when I'm working on the lungs?
For the vagal tone?
Yeah,
what are you trying to do?
so I'm trying at this point. I'm basically trying to, she's been healing really well, but there is something that's deeper than just this condition or that condition, because she's been dealing with some asthma, she's been dealing with chronic fatigue. Now it's the adrenals because she had her ovaries taken out, so the hormones are fluctuating. Some mental things, some sexual trauma. So it's been years and years and years of fight and flight reactions.
Okay.
So which is why I'm thinking, now that she's in a better, like she's healing really well from the surgery, now maybe is it a good time to switch to more work on something like vagal tone all over. So if I'm working
I would say yes, like, because everything that you just described all would be like a byproduct of like poor vagal tone. Like asthma's poor vagal tone. I can't remember what else you said, but everything that you said, like that would be the mark. And so even dealing with psychological traumas or psychological things from the past, that too would also be, I mean, one of the first things you do before you even address it is to treat vagal tone so that you can go through and process that. But what happens sometimes when you improve the vagal tone, things just aren't quite as traumatic as they were when you're in poor vagal tone. Things are, because you think about it, you're in fight flight, so you're in this like kind of triggered mode, and it's like, I gotta put the fire out, I gotta do something, I gotta make it go, I gotta release it, I gotta do this. When you get into more proper like vagal tone, you take that that tendency to be triggered, or that drive that you need to put some, resolve something because you're not in that fight flight. It changes the dynamic of what you're treating in like a psychological way. And a lot of times what happens when you go through and you do like the vagal tone work is people will say afterwards, they'll go, oh, I feel better and I feel more grounded. And had nothing to do with being grounded. It's just that you diminished fight flight and you increased rest and repair. And so it decreases the body tension, it makes you breathe better. It's like, anxiety would be lack of vagal tone. Like almost anything that you could say that is like anxiety, stress, trauma, fears, all of those are poor vagal tone, like all of it. And so doesn't mean that there's not something there, but if you improve the vagal tone, you also kind of improve the emotions and mind's ability to process those situations. And so it diminishes substantially, it makes it more treatable. Like, going to example, this is very simple example, but if we look at it from the point of view of pain, say you're walking down the road and you twist your ankle and you go down and the ankle hurts, and there's like the shock of the situation, there's the injury, there's the pain, there's the areas in spasm. And so a lot of times what I tell people to do is like, okay, before you just jump right up, you sit there and you relax for, like really work on relaxing the body. And with oils, one of the things that we'd have them do is to inhale tarragon. So tarragon would be reducing the tendency for shock, but it's also improving vagal tone in that situation. And what people will say is, the pain could be a 9, they'll start inhaling the tarragon and the pain will go down to like a 3 or a 4. And part of why that is you're not in fight flight anymore, right? You're going into more proper vagal tone. Your body's going into rest and repair. And so body tension changes, lymphatic movement starts happening, the adrenals calm down, like everything starts shifting. And so part of what happens is you also decrease like spasms, because you have that injury, and say you roll your ankle, that injury is still happening for a while, Like, it's not just like, oh, I rolled my ankle. You rolled your ankle, and even when you're sitting there, the injury itself is still in the process of manifesting for a while. And so the quicker you can bring like vagal tone, like the more you can strengthen vagal tone in that moment, you reduce the continued manifestation of that injury. Like this was really key when we were doing work with whiplash. Like if we had a new whiplash person, the sooner I could get them into proper vagal tone, their symptoms would diminish, and we noticed that they wouldn't have the continued manifestation of an injury. Because like, whiplash is a good example. People get injured, but they'll not really realize the extent of the injury, the whiplash, for like 3 to 4 weeks, sometimes even 6 weeks. And they'll go, it didn't start off this way, but eventually, this happened. And it's because that injury is still manifesting for a while. And so the reason it's still manifesting is the body is in fight flight. Like if you can diminish the fight flight, the body will stop degenerating because now it's regenerating. And so here you're talking about like going and treating these like deeper things, like even a psychological wound that's from 20 years ago, there's times where it's still kind of manifesting a little bit. And the more that you can shift somebody into a deeper level of rest and repair or vagal tone, those symptoms will cease to continue to manifest or deepen, and it will actually, the body will start repairing itself, and the emotions and the mind will start like kind of cleaning things up, and then it makes it easier for you to go through and treat. And so the more that you hit the vagal tone, I would say almost anybody, like right off the bat that you have as a client, one of the very first things is hit vagal tone. Just like vagal tone is like your go-to thing, and then after that, everything else becomes easier. Even the idea of how we're working the different aspects of the aura, it's another
that's
way.
amazing.
That's just another way to balance out the sympathetic and parasympathetic parts of the nervous system. By working the different parts of the aura, you're deepening the potential for vagal tone and rest and repair, so that the body, like you're heightening the ability of the body to repair itself. And really what you're doing through all those different aspects of the aura, starting with the structure and then the function, the dynamic or programming, and basically what you're doing on a very deep level is you're pushing the body into that parasympathetic state, or there's a greater potential to go into a parasympathetic state, which means the more you stretch those parameters, it's almost like you can call healing up at will. Like your body can heal and regenerate much faster than just normal. But you really have to like stretch those parameters, because most times we're dealing with people that have poor vagal tone. It's a very common thing these days. Very, very, very common. So at first we're just trying to fortify the vagus nerve and parasympathetic activity. But then after that, you want to expand the potential. Like, so if you really need deep healing, you can push the body and go into really deep healing and then come out of it just like it was a normal night of sleep or something. Like, like for me, sometimes if I'm not doing good, like the back thing that happened about 10 days ago, we did therapy on it. And then I took some oils and things, and I slept really super hard. And when I got up in the morning, I was like 80 or 90% better. Like in the old days, it would have taken me 6 weeks. I mean, I'm not joking. It would have. And now it's just like, yeah, I feel better. I still careful with my back, just because, it's a little fragile. But for me to bounce back like that, the key was like all the therapy helped, but if I can hit that deep vagal nerve state, that man, I can unwind something that would have taken a really super long time. And so, the greatest example I have of this is I talk about how, when we were doing work with PTSD and stuff, like if we could get them to sleep better, they would wake up and not have PTSD the next day. But recently an old client reached out and I hadn't talked to her and her family for probably 15 years. And in between, her husband had been diagnosed with prostate cancer, and they had been treating that for, I want to say, a couple of years. The treatment for prostate cancer is very slow. It's a slow growing cancer, so they usually aren't super aggressive with it. And then in that time frame, after a couple of years of being diagnosed with that, the husband was up skiing and something hit him. They don't know what it is. They think it was another skier, but I mean, it knocked him out and it basically shattered his pelvis. And it was so bad that they didn't think he was going to make it. And he was in the hospital for a very long time, and they put his pelvis back together and everything, and he had to really rest to heal the injury. And I mean, it was, I can't remember what they said, it was a good 6-9 months of just bedridden and very little movement and everything. Time goes by, and he's a tough guy. He got up, he's moving and working and everything. His body's healed from that. And he's got some stiff areas and everything. But the interesting thing is, during that time, they stopped the treatment for the cancer. They went back to address the cancer again, and the cancer wasn't there anymore. And the reason, you could have all kinds of reasons, but he had to go into very, very deep parasympathetic activity to heal the issue with the pelvis. And not only did it heal the pelvis, it healed the cancer. And so when you're looking at really chronic conditions, it's almost always lack of vagal tone, like almost always. Yeah.
Right. And so everything you're saying, thank you, makes perfect sense. So, and when I've been treating her, so I've been, implementing that and treating the neck. But what you just talked about was actually doing that and working with Violet on a lot of different areas, like the solar plexus, the heart, the crown, the lungs. So when you're treating something that's really more chronic, like what I've going on, or so would you do, so basically doing that, working with Violet as opposed to working with other, because even like I worked on, because right now it's the adrenals, which leads to a bunch of other things. It's all connected.
But see, like that's just also poor vagal tone.
Exactly. And when I worked on her, I'm like, okay, I'm running out of ideas here, because psychotherapy gets you to, but then, okay, what else? And okay. So then just working Violet instead of, so you're cleaning and energizing with that. Okay. And then, so you would work basically each time there's a feeling that there's something off with the vagus tone. Anytime that there's something more substantial in the body, that the person is dealing with something more, that would be your go-to.
I treat the vagal tone on everybody. Yeah. If I do a healing on somebody, some portion of that healing is vagal tone.
So basically you would do that, and then you would go in and treat other things or go more specific if needed on other areas.
Depends on how bad the vagal tone is. If the vagal tone's real bad, that's all I do. If it's not too bad, I treat it and then I move on and treat other things. But
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Chris, then Priya.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, thanks, Sam. Hi, Greg.
Hey.
I don't know if I'm making this up, but do you have an oil that blocks histamine?
Yeah, anything that's antihistamine, your best bet is quercetin, which you get at the health food store. But things
Oh,
that are antihistamine are things like Greenland moss, Melissa.
Okay.
Melissa is actually quite decent antihistamine. There is, let me look up. I do have some other things here.
And Greenland moss you would just take internally?
Yeah, yeah,
I think I have that.
yeah.
It's just been sitting there.
Also blue tansy.
Also internal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Clove and
Oh.
caraway. And then allergy support.
Gotcha.
Yeah, allergy support has the blue tansy in it, but with Naoli, which is in the tea tree family, which Naoli like strengthens the immune system, so it makes it less reactive. It's not necessarily an antihistamine, but it fortifies the immune system to make it less likely to have those kinds of responses.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Priya, and then we'll go to the chat questions.
Hey, Miss Priya.
Hi again. So I was thinking, if I'm working with somebody and they consciously they are receptive and open to the session, be it pranic healing, be it with oils, but I can still sense that there is a little bit of, it's probably not conscious, but I can still sense that there's too much in the logic and too much looking for 2 + 2 4, and this is beyond it.
Yeah,
So is there something we can do with oils to help them release that resistance and help them become more open and receptive to the session?
I would say like you could look at that a couple of different ways, but I'd say anytime you deepen the breath, that opens up the potential for them to go into a little bit more of an intuitive state. You know, it's a way to kind of calm everything down. And so opening up the bronchioles is always like a good first place to start. If you're really looking for deeper psychological blockages, that blend assemblage point that's exactly what that's for. Like is to break up the that. But you remember I can't remember if you've had this class or not, but what was it called? Body wisdom, the body map, and then body wisdom.
Yeah, yeah.
So those are actually starting to go down the rabbit hole of those kinds of resistances, and actually muscular tension actually will contribute to like a more rigid intellectual mind. And so sometimes when you have somebody who's really super intellectually rigid and has a hard time like going into the healing process or into intuition or something, you know, you can try to target it from the mind, but one of the easier ways to treat it is to actually treat muscular tension in the body. Like, you know, and you could treat it all different kinds of ways, but just start treating spasms, contractures. You start treating that, and it actually makes the intellectual mind more flexible. So basically, deepen the breath or treat muscular tension. You know, the materialization breath is also a good way to shift them out of it. You know, it depends on you know, it depends on the individual and how rigid and also kind of how willful they are. Like you know, I had this one person who you know, his daughter like I did some work on his daughter, and like she had this condition that got resolved. And the whole family was super excited about it. So they made the dad, her dad, come for a session. And he sat right in front of me with his arms crossed and his legs crossed. And he was like, I don't know about this. Go ahead and you make me
Yeah.
back. And like, there was nothing I could do for that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and so, you know, he could see that his daughter got better. I mean, it wasn't just like, oh, I feel better. Like, basically she didn't have sight, and then in one eye, and then she had sight. And so it was something that was easily validated. And so he knew something was happening, but he was going to have no part of it. And, he's coming for one session. Nothing's probably going to happen. But I started working on his lungs and deepening his breath. And after a little bit of time, that really rigid thing kind of kept loosening and loosening. And then at one point he was kind of slumped forward a little bit. And I was like, how you feeling? And he's like slumped forward, kind of like this. He's like, I feel nothing. Right. But you could see that his body was relaxing. You know what I mean? And so his mind wasn't going to give it any value, but you could see his body was responding. And so, that's just what you shoot for sometimes, even if the mind's being really rigid. The other thing that I'll have people do with that is, how we kind of play with focus and release, and then focus and release. And instead of trying to wrestle with the intellectual mind, which is like how we would focus, is you make them focus really super hard, to the point where then when they let go, they kind of really have to let go. And so instead of wrestling with the intellect, they're being really rigid and focused. You go, okay, really focus. Don't deviate from anything. And you really make them focus. And you like, in it, be it that you have them inhaling an oil or whatever. You watch them, and as soon as their mind starts to go off, go, stay focused, stay focused. So at the end, they just go, they almost have to let go. It's like trying to hold your breath, going, I'm never going to exhale. And you go, yeah, take an inhalation, hold your breath. And then by the time they exhale, they're like almost gasping for air. You do that but to the mind. Like you just make them really super focused. And even that idea of like the 3 brains, in the early stages when I was teaching it, I was like, okay, your awareness is on the sex chakra, your awareness is on the solar plexus, your awareness is on the brain. Now you're balancing it on all 3, right? And then your awareness is on all 3, and then eventually it's like, okay, now make the awareness even. A third on the brain, a third on the solar plexus, a third on the sex chakra, and hold that. That's to make the intellect work super hard, so that at some point it just gets overwhelmed and goes, I give up, right? And then by doing that, you right there start becoming more intuitive. And so when you have like a person like that, you can have them focus on something and then let go, or have them focus on multiple things and hold them in their mind and then let go. And then eventually that makes the mind more flexible.
Very interesting. Yeah, they weren't that rigid, like arms crossed and the experience. But I could, and verbally, consciously, they're there, and they've traveled a fair bit of a distance, public transport to be there. But I could just, I can, sometimes I feel like I can read between the lines a little bit, and I could just sense it, that this is what is going on. Like there is a bit of a resistance, and there's a little bit of logic thing happening. And even I was getting signs that healing sometimes is an excuse. It was more that they just wanted to be heard, and they just wanted to be, just wanted company, and they just, and
Right.
verbally, they, so reason why I
Yeah.
say that, reason why I came to that conclusion was because in the middle of the conversation, they said that, yeah, I'm gonna do this whole healing session because that's what I'm here for. So I realized that they're trying to convince themselves that I'm here to do the healing session. But their mind was sort of wanting to do, just chill or just talk or just not worry about the healing side of things. So I guess I'll try the 3 brains technique, and maybe to deepen the breath, I was thinking inula.
Right.
Maybe start the session with deep inhalations with inula. What do you think?
Yeah, oh yeah, that'd be tremendous. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that'd be tremendous. Yeah, like
try that.
and the other thing that I would say on this topic is we all don't have the same definition of healing. Like you brought up a good point just a second ago. For you, healing might be very different than for one of your clients. One of your clients might just be that they complain about something for an hour and you listened, and then you go, yeah, boy, that sucks. And for them, that might be what their version of healing looks like. Doesn't mean that you do their version, but not everybody, we all don't have the same perspective of what healing is. And so sometimes when you're dealing with a person and they've heard the idea and everything, but maybe they they don't quite know what it is, you can do it through a series of questions, like you do, like even, going back to that guy, like there was this other guy I used to work on, and he'd always just go, he was there, just like you said, he was there because he wanted to be and he was wanting to get better, but he'd always go, yeah, I feel nothing. 15 minutes into it, he'd be slumped over asleep, kind of snoring, and I'd go, how do you feel? And he goes, I feel nothing. Like his body was feeling it, like to the point where he was conking out, but his mind, like he had some idea of what that was. And so so the way to cut through that sometimes is you ask them questions almost where you make them check in with themselves. Is your body more relaxed? Are you feeling like you're taking a deeper breath? Are you feeling less anxious? Are you, when you think back of a situation, does it still feel the same? How does your stress level feel right now? You ask those questions and you make them kind of check in with something so that it's almost like their mind acknowledges, like, oh yeah, I do feel better. My favorite one was I was working on this one person. I don't know, there was some pain syndrome. And I would work on her, and I was like, how's it feel? And she's like, nope, still there. And I started noticing that, like, every time I would ask her, she'd go, nope, still there. And I was like, so when you came in, this is over a few sessions, by the way. I go, when you came in, it was like 98 out of 100, and out of 98, out of 100, where are you at now? Like you came in, it was 98. Where are you at? And she goes, 2. And I go, well, isn't that an improvement? And she leaned in and she goes, it's still there.
Yeah.
In her mind, like that,
Yeah.
it went from 98 down to 2
Yeah.
wasn't significant because that 2 was still there. And I was like, whoa, oh, okay. But like something did happen, and she'd go, but it's still there. Like in her mind, healing was, that's not there anymore. And I can't remember what it was, but it was some degenerative arthritic condition. And it's like,
Yeah.
that was a significant improvement, but in her mind, it wasn't an improvement at all.
Yeah. So at the end of the session, they mentioned that, no, Priya, but the purba, whatever you were doing with the purba, I could feel that you were doing circles. but I was not doing any. So I told them that, the purva was static on your body. I was not moving it. You know how we do the purva? We just put it on the ajna. But I know this purva is such that a couple of my friends, when I've done the healings on them, they tell me that I can feel the energy moving. But this person, because, I was working with more of an intellectual person here, they were like, I could feel that you were moving the purva, but I wasn't doing any movement. So I just told them that, and they were like, I believe you. I believe you. So it was interesting. The whole experience was interesting. But you're right. They themselves, they said that the healing will take like a lot of time. So I think sometimes it's our beliefs. If we believe that the healing is going to take a very long time to happen, then it's the receptivity, isn't it? It's the openness, isn't it? Yeah. But yeah, I'll continue. This was just one session, so I've still got a whole heap of sessions ahead in front of us with this client. So I'm interested in seeing how it all unfolds. But I wanted to discuss this with you a little bit.
Yeah, and so like that's you still bring up like a deeper level of, again, going into the vagal tone and deeper levels of parasympathetic activity, which is the physical component of going deeper into intuition, is, going into that deeper vagal tone is you really are more likely to blow apart that belief when vagal tone is improved, because in the movement towards deeper vagal tone, you're moving more into the intuitive state, and the intuitive state will break up that predetermined like idea that they have, like, oh, healing's going to take a long time, and maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Like, it's really hard to say sometimes, but you approach it, and the process is the process. But if they, like you said, if they have a predetermined idea, that's a very intellectual thing. That's not an intuitive thing. Those kinds of things don't exist in intuition. And so the more that you push them into that deeper vagal tone, the more that you can even break up those preconceived ideas that somebody has of what healing is.
So how, if I was to target the vagal tone with the purva, is there a way of doing that?
But the purva, I'll have to think about it. I off the top of my head, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
so,
anytime you spiritualize, you're going into deeper vagal tone, but to really super specifically target vagal tone, let me think about it. I'm sure there's probably I just have to think about it. Yeah.
With the oils, we've discussed a few things today, but I remember a little while ago, there used to be a class. I have not done it. I wanted to. I'm still interested in. That was the medulla oblongata, the vagus nerve class. Is that the best class to target the vagal tone?
Yeah, that's a good place to start. And that was, we were starting with, that's where we started kind of going into the three brains and all that. And so there's a lot of different aspects for vagal tone in that. Yeah.
So that would be a good place to start. And another thing, lastly, I wanted to check with you, the St. John of what we were discussing earlier. If I was to take it internally for blood purification, how many drops, and is there like a time restriction that only for a certain number of days you can take it internally?
No, you can actually take it for quite a while. I would say taking it internally, the restriction would be maybe just be careful about being out in the sun for long periods of time. It does make the skin a little bit hypersensitive when you're taking it long term, or a big dosage. But I would say 1 to 2 drops, 1 to 2 times a day. That's pretty good, pretty healthy. Yeah, like the kind of St. John's wort that I have, which is probably the kind that you guys have in Australia. It's European St. John's wort versus American St. John's wort, and the European St. John's wort is probably twice as potent as the American St. John's wort, because there's a different growing cycle. Like the plant grows a little bit longer in Europe than it does before it's harvested. And so the European St. John's wort is actually much more potent. And so you don't really need a whole lot of the European St. John's wort. Yeah, like at
Beautiful.
St. John's wort I get, it's actually pharmaceutical grade. Like they use it in pharmaceuticals over, I think, in Germany.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Today's session was
Thanks,
so
Malcolm.
great. Thank you.
And then go ahead, Donita.
Hi, Greg, just a
Hey,
quick
hey.
question, please. Okay, what is the best protocol to have before and after speaking in public in a large group? So before to calm the nerves and just to calm the body and to calm all the, you know, and after to calm the shakiness and the aftermath. Because that happened to me yesterday, and my
What
first.
kind of talk? What kind of speech or what kind of talking are you doing?
I was invited to speak, and there were about 150 people, and it was
But
my
what was
first.
the topic? Like what were you talking about?
Oh, my
Like
shares about something. It was my share, so it wasn't like it was kind of merging two themes. I don't know, my expertise and something new that came into
okay.
it. But
For
I was
that,
nervous. It's more like the people, really. It's like the nervousness about 150. I've never spoken. I'm a hermit. So it's like to me, there's just like, oh my God, 150 people. What am I gonna say? Da, 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 da. My mind was just going. So I took all the tinctures. I inhaled so many oils that I was zonked and still nervous. And afterwards, I was shaking and I was sweating, and it took me out. I was exhausted, and it took me hours to.
afterwards I'd use tarragon.
Tarragon? Okay.
Yeah. Prior, well, you did all
Yeah, to
those
just.
things and you still had some nervousness.
But you know, it's like what's the best to do, because I didn't really know. I looked at all my many oils and everything I
I
have.
would say like probably Lotus or tuberose. Narcissus I'd throw in there as well.
I don't. Yeah, I don't.
Osmanthus, like I'd throw something like that in as well. But you did the Lotus tincture, the Spadric tincture.
I didn't do the Lotus. I didn't know. I did the frankincense. I did the Melissa, and I sniffed a bunch of
Try
them.
the Blue Lotus tincture before.
I say I didn't know. I thought there's like, okay, but
And the reason I say that is that the Lotus hopes to stimulate like higher cognitive functions, and it stimulates the potential for realization, which means it's stimulating the intuitive mind. And even the thing like, you're getting up and presenting, some of that is intellect and some of that is intuition. And you could say that like when we get too stuck in like getting stressed out or focused on the information, it's just lack of intuitive thought. Like the intellect is kind of starting to elbow out the intuition a little bit, and you just got to bring intuition like back to the table, because it will regulate the intellect. And so
do you know, for me it wasn't that. I think it didn't feel like that. To me, it was the nerves. To me, it was.
But that's still lack of
stretching.
intuition. That's lack of it. Like nerves doesn't exist in an intuitive state.
Okay.
It just doesn't exist.
Okay.
Yeah. Like that is part of like what happens in the intellect. Basically, you're when we get like that, we're speculating or anticipating something. So that is an intellectual process. So the remedy for it is to shift over a little bit more into the intuitive state.
Okay. What's the best pill?
What's the best way?
Magic pill for that.
Oh, try the Lotus internal.
The spagyric Lotus.
Mm-hmm.
How many dropperful before I speak?
Do one or two.
And how early before? Like, can it half an hour before?
Yeah, probably a half hour.
Okay. Because I did the frankincense, I did Melissa, and they did, but they didn't. You know, I could feel the
Yeah,
stress
yeah,
in the body.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, when I first started teaching, I had that issue too.
Oh, I, that's
So you know, part of it is um, I just had to act like nobody was there, and so I would look down and I would look up, I would look past everybody, but so that my intellect wouldn't get engaged, like you know, because I'd started looking and you know, but like after 5 or 10 minutes, if I could get past that first 5 minutes, I was fine.
yeah, but you see, my the problem was I only had about 10 minutes. So I
Yeah.
didn't have time to unwind. I didn't have time to calm. I just had to just like zoom through it and be done with it. And on top of it, I was the last to talk. And the ones in front of me, they had more experience in the field, that field particular. So I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, what am I doing?
I'm
So
sure you did fine.
what?
I'm sure you did fine.
Yeah, but my body was decompressing. So I need tarragon afterwards. It
Tarragon,
took me
yep, yep.
hours and hours and hours to come back to planet Earth.
Okay, everybody, we got to jump over to the Astara prayer petition blessing, and thanks for the session tonight. And we have our study group tomorrow night, and then the Dorje practice, Dorje and Ankh on Thursday night, and then regeneration of the digestive system on the weekend. So hopefully I see you somewhere else, and come join us with the Astara blessing if you'd like.